Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll be kicking off our 2024 NFL season betting competition again. We'll be bringing that back for this year. We had kind of varied the seasons last year, so we'll be seeing if we come up with new strategies then for this year. We'll be talking about the Chiefs opening day game against the Baltimore Ravens in Kansas City on Thursday. But we'll kick off today's show with the now struggling, injury bug-ridden Kansas City Royals. Now have lost 6 games in a row, and I think a lot of Royals fans are freaking out about the chances for the season. Mike, are you one of those fans, or are you holding steadfast to the Royals being a playoff team and a contender? What are you thinking now after the last week?
Well, if the Royals had been more, I guess they built themselves a bit of a cushion. So I think even losing these 6 games, they're still about 4.5 games up on the third wild card spot. So they're about 4.5 games ahead of Boston right now. And then there's Detroit, which has kind of crept back into things,
And
and
Seattle, I think, are five
Seattle
games back. So
kind of hovering back down there too. But I think because the Royals had played so well for a while, they've built themselves this cushion. And the Twins and the Guardians haven't been so great either. But hopefully the Royals can. They have 3 more games. I think they have. Is it 3 more games against the Guardians or just 2 more games?
just two, yeah.
If they can get at least one or two of those games
That's
back.
after having lost today, which was their sixth straight
Today,
loss
the
against
the
in the
the
season in
four
the series
yeah
opener against Cleveland.
the 4 straight to Houston wasn't good, but they aren't really competing against Houston directly because Houston's going to win that division.
Right.
The idea is maybe Houston now is on the inside track to get a bye in the playoffs if the Royals happen to win the division. But I think the Royals, at one point they were tied with Cleveland with the division lead just a week
And
ago.
playing them in that
Yeah,
game that would have decided if the Royals could have taken over the division lead.
but they've gone downhill. That Pasquantino getting injured is really tough. He's probably their second best overall hitter
But
after.
he has been the clutch guy. He was the RBI guy sitting right between Bobby Witt Jr. and Sal and was driving in all kinds of runs, and
Yeah, playing solid first base defense.
replacing him is a different challenge that, yeah, I don't think you're not going to. I don't think so.
Well, they brought in a couple of guys. They brought in Tommy Pham. They brought in Yuli Gurriel, who's uh already both of them already started playing because Hunter Renfroe has been hurt too, so he's out of things.
And Robbie Grossman was also picked up too.
Robbie Grossman picked up.
I don't think
Yeah,
he's seen gameplay yet, but
no.
he
Um,
is in the mix anyway.
they've had some pitching injuries with Reagan's getting kind of having leg issues. Lorenzen having I think leg issues as well.
And he
So
went to the injured list. Reagan's has not missed time, but he has not been
yeah,
ideal. Urseg was actually injured on the same
same
play
play as yeah.
that Pasquantino was injured on. So, but Pasquantino's injury is going to be, yeah, like
He's out the rest of the regular season at
regular
least,
season ending at least anyway.
and
So broken
probably into
thumb.
well, he's not. The problem is like he can still probably play first base with a broken thumb, but he's not gonna be able to hit very well with a broken thumb.
Wouldn't think so.
That's the problem, unfortunately. It happened really at the wrong time of year.
They have
Um,
been pretty lucky to have avoided a lot of these injuries, but at this
mhm.
point in the year, you're in deep into the grind, and some of these guys, especially like with the pitching staff, Reagans and Lugo have thrown more innings than they have ever thrown before.
Ever,
So
yeah.
it's getting into like uncharted waters essentially for how well what we should expect from these players. Like they've
And
had great
yeah,
years to this point. So like I don't know if we should be assuming that they're going to be the same players they were 3 months ago,
mhm.
in the next month, the same time these other injuries have happened too. So it's gonna be
gonna,
nail biter, I think, isn't it? It's gonna
well,
be like
yeah,
holding on for dear life down this
yeah.
stretch.
And now Witt has kind of been struggling, at least relatively, the last few games. His batting average has dropped about 10 points in the last 3 or 4 games. So
Do you think that's without having Rasputin protecting him
I think
in the
that
lineup
helps.
behind
I
him?
think maybe also he's probably just pressing a little bit. Also, maybe it just be a coincidental kind of slump too. But it's not,
He ebbs and flows a bit like
yeah.
everyone else does, but his when he was, yes, I guess in the the heights of his streaks, he is incredibly good. So
Yeah, he's
that's
he's still leading the league, both leagues in batting.
mhm.
11 points higher right now than Aaron Judge is.
Who's
We were
apparently also dipped a bit because I was right about that last week, I think
Yeah, he
too.
was in three. I think Judge is about 333 last week.
Yeah,
Um, and but we Luis Arias though we mentioned him. He's up to 310 now, but this will be the lowest National League batting average. National League if he wins the National League batting title at 310, that would be the lowest ever in the National League, I believe. It would be the lowest ever of either league since 1968 when Carl Yastrzemski won with a 301 batting average. So it's been interesting. The top four batting averages are all American League batsmen. But yeah,
so are
Luis
you
Arraez.
surprised that this low batting average season has happened in the National League? A year, the first year of the banned shift, then too. Like the batting average as a
Yeah,
whole seemed to be going down pretty dramatically with the shift
yeah.
allowed. Now the shift is banned. Are you surprised to see that some of the batting averages at the top are even lower than they were even last year?
Um, yeah, in the American League, it's not so different. I think it's just that people are prioritizing batting average a little bit differently than they used to. I think the empty 300 hitter is no longer really much of is not as common as it used to be. Like Arias is one of the last of that breed. Like he is batting 310 and he's got .7 WAR on the year. So he's been just barely above a replacement level player. Of course he plays at first base and he only has 4 home runs on the season. So that's not really too much when it comes out of a first baseman. So um, but players like Witt and um, Aaron Judge have had really big years. Uh, you know, Juan Soto's had a solid season. Jaron Duran has had a really good year for the Red Sox. So there's been some really big offensive kind of output seasons this year. Uh, we haven't, yeah,
But maybe it's just not as a net for batting average at
not for
least.
batting average. Yeah,
Yeah.
Gunnar Henderson's had a big year. But yeah, like I think the average, like if the 50th best batting average in the entire major leagues right now. What do you think the 50th best batting average is? I'm looking at ESPN right now. The top 50 in batting average for across both leagues.
Is it over 250? I'd be a little surprised if it
It's
is.
264 is
Oh, it
top.
is. Okay. So
I
I
was
was guessing low just because of what you were saying. I was expecting it was going to be even lower than what I should have guessed. And then yeah.
top 100. What do you think of top 100?
Now I'll say 250.
239 for top
Okay.
100.
Well below. Okay. Now I
Well
can go for it.
below, yeah. 75, Zach Neto is at 75. He's at 250.
So what's league average then? Is that something that's listed there? Does it tell you what the league average?
I think league average is around 240 right now.
Man,
Uh,
that's really low.
well, there are actually only 135 eligible
Wow.
players across the league have to be eligible for the batting title. Number 135 is Christopher Morel at 196. So it's good that the Royals have their guys a little bit higher now.
Yeah.
I guess Michael
244 is the league average according to uh
244. Okay.
baseball reference, but that's not for like qualifying. That's probably
Everybody,
everybody's.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Hunter Renfroe and it looks like it even
Like Adam
Melendez
Frazier, I think it's only
Melendez
like 206, somewhere in
haven't
there.
qualified. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
because you have to have like, was it 3.1 at bats
3.1
per
plate appearances, I think, for every
plate
game.
appearances? Okay.
Paul DeYoung is the lowest of the qualified Royals at 234. Michael
He may
Garcia,
slip below that because I don't. He's not playing every day for
yeah,
Kansas City now, so it's possible he will, lose his qualifying status by the end of the season if he's like playing as infrequently as he has been,
yeah,
because he's still playing one of those positions that they already have some coverage at.
yeah. So
Because I
yeah,
think they like Michael Garcia, but they don't want to necessarily use him as a leadoff spot. So now
mhm.
they've slipped Tommy Pham in there. Do you think Pham is the solution at the leadoff? He's done okay in the 3 or 4 games he
Games.
started for the
Yeah,
Royals.
I don't know if he's good for the long term, or maybe he's good enough for the short term. But yeah, the missing Pasquantino has been tough. Did you know the Royals have three of the top 10 Major League Baseball players in terms of RBI?
Yeah,
And that includes Pasquantino still. He had
yeah.
97. Bobby Wood Jr. also has 97 RBIs. Salvador
How's that
Perez
far
has
behind?
94.
Yeah. And
Judge,
Wood ended up hitting his 30th home run too, right? Which was 30 home
yeah.
runs back-to-back seasons, which I think was the first time a Royal has done that. So that's pretty impressive too.
Is it the first time ever?
I think that's a headline I saw. I didn't go
I
back
was
and
thinking
check
Danny
it.
Tartabull did that back in the late 80s.
Yeah.
That was my
He was a good power hitter for the Royals, but he wasn't on the too many teams. He had 34 home runs in 87 for Kansas City and 88, only 26.
okay. Sweet 60 across 2 seasons.
He did have 31 and 91, but those are the only two times he went over 30 in Kansas City.
Because he was injured a couple of years later. Okay, a couple of those other years. Okay.
Yeah, so he didn't play. So- but yeah. But Steve Alboni didn't either, I guess, then, huh? If that article is
No,
correct, at
no, but I've
least.
only had 36 home runs, 85. Um,
He had
George Brett,
29 home runs the next
uh,
year. Just missed it by one.
I believe George Brett's career high ever was 30 home runs in 85. So I don't think he never got 30 again. So he was more of a doubles. Uh,
Right.
hitter. Had he played in a smaller ballpark, he would have been much more of a power hitter. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so it just shows what how good Witt has been. Um, and yeah, 30 the only back-to-back 30 home run player. That's interesting. Yeah, because even like Soler or Moustakas, these guys who had the big one, or Perez who have had big single season numbers haven't
Yeah.
been able to repeat that.
Or have been followed by an injury season.
Yeah, yeah, Salvador Perez. Let's look at him.
Yeah, so Jorge Soler had 48 home runs in 2019. 2018, he only managed nine because he only played 61 games. And then
Hmm.
2020, he only managed 8 home runs because he only played 43 games. So they were, yeah, immediately
Yeah,
bookended by not so good years.
yeah. This is also Perez's highest. He got 25 this year. His highest total since 2021 when he hit 48. So Perez has been over 20 for when he plays the whole season. He's been over 20 most of the time. But yeah, 30. He's only hit 30 one time when he hit 48 that one year. So
Mm.
um, yeah, good.
Moustakas got to 38 in 2017, and he was at 20 in 2018 when he was traded to Milwaukee mid-season the following year. So
How many home runs did he hit
he
for
didn't get a
Milwaukee?
chance. Only eight.
So he didn't even get over 30.
Yeah, so he didn't quite make it to 30, even split between the two teams. So
Mm.
it looks like he was on pace to go to 30 in Kansas City, but maybe Milwaukee's lineup or he wasn't being used the same way.
Or
And
maybe he got injured or something. Yeah.
he played 54 games, so he must not have played quite as many games in the last third of the season anyway. So
Maybe there was an injury there.
could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't know. I think going back to the Royals' chances, I think they have still, I think it's a 75% chance according to ESPN and according to Fangraphs. Basically because their competitors 7 of their last 10, just like the Royals have, and Seattle's kind of fading as well. So I think Boston is their biggest competitor since, but I think that they're a little bit, they need to really, you know, be on a hot streak, and they haven't been lately. So I'm not sure. I think the Royals could still limp into the playoffs. Whether
Yeah,
they'll, and that's all they have to do is make it into the playoffs. But I don't like their chances as much without Pasquantino. He's one of the
yeah.
best players, and the Royals haven't been able to show that they have another big bat in the lineup besides, Pasquantino. Maybe DeYoung could do some of that if he plays more. Um,
The issue with him though is he's also right-handed, and like I think what made that trio work of Witt, Pasquantino, and Sal was that they switch handedness between the three of them when they went 2-3-4 on the lineup.
yeah.
So I think they have at least landed on putting like sandwiching Massey there, which is actually what makes the most sense, I think, too. I'm shocked that they've actually done that. However, though, he has not gotten a hit in the 2 games that keep there, so I'm afraid they're going to move him out, and that's probably their best statistical chance is to leave him there. I'm afraid they're not going to, like, they gave him 2 games, they're probably going to take him out almost immediately.
Well, hopefully. Well, Contreras been out for this personal reason, so maybe he'll be out again. Who knows what's going
Yeah,
on with him? He had some issues earlier in the season as well. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious. But
yeah.
um,
I
yeah, the
mean, we have no
Royals.
idea what that is. They just said personal reasons, so
Yeah, yeah. So the
maybe
Royals.
he just needs to like renew his license plates or his driver's license,
Yeah,
and he has to be
he's
there
got
right
some.
there. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, he's got to have a crown put in on his tooth or something. He's got some
Could
some
be.
dental surgery going on. Maybe
We have,
that's what it
we have no
is.
idea.
Usually they say stuff like that, like he went for a dentist thing or something like that, or something. But
But
personal,
the team doesn't seem like they want to like disclose information though, too. It's like they, didn't say anything when what was the pitcher that left earlier in the season? Uh,
Lyles.
yeah, Jordan Lyles. Like he was just listed as like undisclosed reason, and
Yeah.
then when they could activate him, they released him instead. So
Hmm.
they said they didn't think he was going to be back in time.
That's been a more
Yeah,
common
so
designation recently. This undisclosed reasons. That's also something that's going on with the Chiefs right now. Should we want to transition to the Chiefs or
I'm afraid to talk anymore about the Royals anyway because it just gets so
Royals?
negative so quickly. So maybe we should just move on so we don't have to think about how the possible slide. So
Yes, so the
sounds good.
Chiefs are going to start their season on Thursday, probably the day that this episode comes out, maybe or around the day this episode is released. They play their
Likely.
first game against the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday night, the opening game of the NFL season. One of the recent announcements was that um, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back, is going to go on the non-football injury list. It seems like perhaps because of his symptoms for PTSD. He had some issues earlier in the off season. Maybe the parade shooting maybe reignited some of those issues because he was involved in this shooting, an attempted robbery. It seems like at LSU. That was never the
Mm.
details of which were never quite revealed about who was involved with what, but somebody who tried to rob some couple of LSU players ended up getting shot and killed. So maybe Edwards-Helaire seems like he was involved in that in in some way, and maybe that was what contributed to his PTSD. But the Chiefs did happen to pick up in the last few days Samaje Perine from uh, Denver. The Chiefs had Perine's cousin LaMichael Perine on the roster a couple of times over the last year or two as kind of a fourth running back. But Samaje has been a little bit more successful in the NFL than LaMichael has been. And I remember Perine being a very solid player for the Bengals a couple of years back, and somebody who really
Mhm.
like tore up the Chiefs quite a bit when he was in. He was, he and Joe Mixon made a really good tandem. He was a really good receiver out of the backfield, so he's going to maybe be that third down receiving threat for the Chiefs if he can get you know used to the playbook and on the same page as the offense relatively quickly. So I think What do you think of the addition of Samaje Perine for the Chiefs?
Well, I think I mean, it seems like a solid addition. He's a professional player, so it's not like they're going after some random guy that hasn't been in here before. But it probably also means we're probably going to see more of Carson Steele, though, too. Is that
Mhm.
what you're assuming? Are we going to see a lot of Carson Steele, or do you think we'll end up seeing like a mix of the two, Steele and Urine?
I think you might. I think we'll. The question is Steele going to go in as a running back, or is he going to go in as a fullback mostly? And
Yeah,
it's like maybe they'll use Steele in a variety of positions,
yeah,
and so they have Pacheco obviously to start, and
right.
but he's one of the, I'd say, top 10 to 15 running backs in the NFL, if he's healthy right now, and I think, it's a little bit, you'd like to have a veteran like Edwards-Helaire back there as the third down option, maybe, because they don't have Jerick McKinnon right now. But I think P. Ryan can play that Jerick McKinnon role. I think he can be good in pass protection. He's a veteran. Somebody that,
Mm,
still a young kid. He
yeah.
might not know the ropes in the same way that P. Ryan does. So I think picking up P. Ryan was one of the best pickups that the Chiefs could have had to
Mhm.
fulfill their 53-man roster. I believe we mentioned Peyton Hendershot as a tight end coming in. Um, we didn't mention our old friend from New England, Bailey Zappi, as becoming the new third quarterback on the practice squad. Oladokun's been released. Ian Book has been released. What do you think of Bailey Zappi on the practice squad? Do you like him as the third quarterback, Andrew?
I think he's pretty interesting. I kind of hope we don't see him at all, just because we want Mahomes to be healthy the whole season. So,
That would require,
uh,
Wentz and Mahomes.
right.
Yeah, if we saw, but I think having him
If
as the third quarterback, that's
in
you
the
know,
scenario where you go three deep, I think the Chiefs are probably one of the deeper teams in the league at this point. So I mean, there are probably only a handful of teams that can go three deep and say they have like starters in those roles. So
yeah,
I mean, that's good, but we hope we don't have to see any of that though, too, right? Is that what you were thinking,
yeah. You don't
or
want to see Mahomes
yeah.
be out, and you don't want to, and then you don't want to see Wentz out either. I think Wentz is one of the top backups, but I think that now the Chiefs, it seems like they have a really, like you said, a really good top three. They might have the best third quarterback, and they might have the best backup quarterback in the
Yeah.
league right now, and especially
That's one of
with
the things the Royals would wish to have, is that kind of depth at almost any position. So
Well,
that's
yeah,
nice
you
to
wonder
see
like
that with
why the Royals haven't tried to
across the
develop
party
Nick
line.
Pratto more, as because he was beaten out by Pasquantino as a first baseman, but he was the first round draft pick. He's I guess the Mac Jones of that Zappy comparison. Uh,
But I don't understand why though. Like they didn't give him a shot. So like, why do you even like see? Why
yeah,
don't you just bring him up just to see if he can at least play the major league level this season? Because he came in as a pitcher. They didn't even use him in the field. So it's like, what? I mean, what's the point of that? If they're going to use him, why don't they just release him? Like, what's the point of tying his career up if they're not going to, use him?
yeah, I
So
don't know. Maybe they think next year is going to be a little different. I'm not sure. It's hard to say what the Royals are doing. I think we can safely say that the Chiefs front office is run a little bit better than the Royals front office, at least over the past
without
several years.
question, Mike, that's like a maybe
You
understatement of the century.
think that Brett Veach knows what he's doing a little bit more than JJ Piccolo and the Royals staff, but
Without question.
yeah, I think the Chiefs are. They brought in. We mentioned they brought in. Did we mention last week they brought Juju Smith-Schuster back on the roster as well? Uh,
That happened right before we aired, so we did know that last
mhm.
week. So we were recording.
And I think that was also maybe a good addition because he's somebody who wasn't on the offense last year, but he was on the year
Hmm.
before. So maybe he can help at least I think lower the floor of the receiver room. They had like Justin Watson was number 4 on the receiving depth chart, and maybe I think you might say Smith Schuster would hope would surpass Justin Watson at some point this year, and having Watson as a 5, and then you have Sky Moore and um, who else is Nicole Hardman down there as
Mm.
lower options on the receiving depth chart, maybe return guys. That's a pretty solid room, especially once Hollywood Brown comes back. But even with Brown out, I think with Rice, Worthy, Juju now, and even Justin Watson, that's still not terrible to have as your top four guys. And having Hardman back there is kind of a gadget guy,
Mm.
somebody who can run certain plays, some deep balls, some end
And then
arounds.
double as a returner too, if
Yeah,
necessary.
yeah. I think the Chiefs are doing a little better at receiver this year than they were last year. So hopefully they will that Mahomes will have guys to throw to. I think the tight end room is looking solid again. So it seems like I'm more optimistic about the Chiefs offense this year. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen on defense, but I think they'll be solid again. They've lost Willie Gay, they lost L'Jarius Sneed, but they seems like Tranquil was kind of a revelation last year.
Mhm.
Bolton is still there. Usually they only play five linebackers. I mean, two linebackers, and they play five defensive backs is kind of the most common. Nickel defense is more common in the NFL now than the base 4-3-4 defense. So,
Yeah.
and it seems like they really like Jaden Hicks, the new safety, was drafted out of Washington State in the fourth round. Jamari Connor's come along. They have a lot of young cornerbacks and safeties that are pretty good. So maybe the defense will be very solid again. They brought in they brought back Chris Jones, of course. He's the on the defensive line. Uh, they also brought in, is he on the practice squad or is he on the active roster now? Uh, Marlon
He's on the practice squad.
Tui Pelotu. They ended up jettisoning Matt Dickerson and Neil Farrell, I believe, from the practice squad because of Tui Pelotu, who
Mhm.
had who had played defensive tackle for uh, the Eagles in in their Super Bowl season. So he's
And they're pretty deep at tackle at this point because they picked up Mike Pennell late in the year and
Pinnell,
and
Derek
he was
Nottie.
great at the end of the season, so
Yeah.
into the playoffs. So I think he cemented himself
And
as
you
at
wouldn't
least
be
having a
surprised
role.
you wouldn't be surprised if Dickerson and Farrell were kind of fringe practice squad guys that they would bring back at
Yeah.
certain times. It seems like those guys they tend to stick around with the Chiefs quite a bit. The Chiefs have a pretty good rapport with a lot of uh, players that are maybe not even on the practice squad, but are kind of brought in um, to
They're around. They're hanging around at least anyway.
yeah.
They're at least nearby if they're required, I guess.
They're like on the practice squad for the practice squad.
Sort of
The
assistant to
assistant,
the regional member.
the assistant to the regional manager, where Dwight
Yeah.
Schrute became his own assistant's assistant.
Nice. Good
Yes,
reference.
yeah, I knew that's where you were going with it. Yeah, it's kind of what I had envisioned. But yeah, the Chiefs have been, they've had some that injury, kind of bad injury luck with Hollywood Brown. Now also see that with Edwards-Helaire going on the non-football injury list for an undisclosed reason, but it's probably what we had talked about with mental health issues. But um,
Amenahue's going to be out for most of the season too.
yeah, Menahue's going to be gone. So you would like to see uh, um, the defensive line in his absence step up. Uh, there's been a little bit of a question uh,
What
around
NADK
Anudike
Uzoma?
Ozama, yeah, who's maybe as a first round draft pick last year hasn't really lived up to his promise this year, but it's still early and he's still fairly young, so maybe he's still a developmental kind of guy. But Carl Aftis as it seems like is probably going to keep taking steps forward. So as a defensive end, he's been solid. Um,
Mhm.
so I think the Chiefs are in good standing there. I think
I mean, they still have Chris Jones, so that's usually pretty
they
good.
also brought in the guy from Um, from the Cardinals, Cam
Thomas
Cam Thomas,
or
yeah.
Cam Jones, linebacker. Cameron Thomas is the looks like defensive end anyway. So you're talking
Cameron
about
Thomas, yeah. Cam Jones is a linebacker. Yeah, Cameron Thomas is what
yeah,
I'm thinking.
yeah,
Cam Jones is kind of the fifth kind of special teams linebacker, basically,
yeah.
who could kind of step. He stepped in when Tranquil got injured last year,
Mhm.
and Bolton was out too for a little bit last year.
Yeah.
Um, but Cam Thomas, I think, is a solid pickup on the defensive line as well. So it seems like the Chiefs are active at picking guys up that are kind of fringe starters, at least solid help on these different positions. So I like I like what the Chiefs are doing. There really seems like they're going all in for the three-peat this year. What do you think the Chiefs? What do you think the game against the Ravens is looking like on Thursday? Do you like the Chiefs' chances there? I think they're favored by 3 points. What do you think? I know we're going to make our bets on the week um, coming up, but we also have uh, we want to talk about the Chiefs' chances. Do you like the Chiefs on Thursday night against the Ravens? A rematch of the AFC Championship game just from 8 months ago?
Yeah. Yeah, I really wish they wouldn't schedule these like ridiculous games so, right off the bat. But that's what happens when become the face of the league, then you get scheduled for early games against like tough opponents. So they want to like make sure the league puts the best matchup together right away to start the season off. And it's just unfortunate that, the season has to start like this for the Chiefs. I'd much rather see this as like a, mid-season to late season game, but I'm a little worried about the game, honestly. So like I think the Chiefs have a great shot at the three-peat, but I don't really know what that means for the first week. You don't know whenever if everything's come out flat or what happens early on. So I'm gonna go with a cautious optimism. Like I would say if I was gonna make to pick the game, I would probably say that the Chiefs will maybe win, but it may, maybe they won't cover the spread. Well, what were you thinking for this?
Chiefs are favored by 3. So you think the Chiefs are going to win, but maybe only win by 1 or 2? Is
Possibly.
is your guess?
I mean,
Or
I hope that they, win by like, 4 or 5 touchdowns, but
maybe
it's,
push, or maybe a push. They could just win by a field goal at the end by Butker, something
you
like
don't
that.
usually pick a push though, to
I
be at
wonder what the
least a
odds
little
would be
involved,
if you
right?
pick the push exactly. It's like flipping the coin and having it land on its side.
Right on the edge. Yes.
Yeah.
You're not doing that, or are you doing that?
I think no. I'm gonna be optimistic and pick the Chiefs to cover. I'm not sure Baltimore is quite what it was last year. I think they lost their defensive coordinator and uh, Mike McDonald, who went to um, not to be confused with Mike McDaniel in Miami, but Mike McDonald, who went to Seattle to be their new head coach. They
The
lost a
yacht
couple of
rock, the yacht rock guy.
Michael McDonald, yeah, from the Doobie Brothers. Wasn't he in the Doobie Brothers before he was on his
I think
solo?
so. Yeah.
Yeah, What a Fool Believes, things like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is Mike McDonald, not to be confused with Michael McDonald. Uh, but yeah, he was the defensive coordinator.
Yeah. Like
And they've so losing coordinator, losing a couple of guys in the back end, and then Patrick Queen has gone as well. He went to I think Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh picked up a couple of old Ravens guys. So Pittsburgh seems to have the Ravens number a lot during the regular season. Maybe again they'll have their number. So I'm. They also lost a lot of running backs, but they brought in, of course, from Tennessee. What his name is slipping.
oh, I was just thinking of him too. Now your not remembering his name has caused me to not also remember his name.
Our legions of fans, Derrick Henry. Our legions of fans are
They're
yelling
making fun of us. They know
yelling
who we're
Derrick.
talking
How can you forget Derrick Henry's name? But they lost J.K. Dobbins. They lost Gus Edwards. I think both of them went to San Diego, well, not San Diego, to Los Angeles to the Chargers.
about.
Uh, so, but so it's a different running attack. They have a different. They're gonna have a different defense a little bit. I think their offensive line maybe is. Um, in a little bit of transition as well, but they still have Lamar Jackson, and they're going to be really upset that they lost to the Chiefs in the championship game in Baltimore. So I think they'll have the Chiefs number, at least in some ways. But I think I'm going to predict the Chiefs cover. I think they'll come out and win that game. The Chiefs haven't looked very impressive in the preseason, so that hasn't they haven't looked so good. But I think
They
Mahomes and
haven't played anybody at all. I mean, they
yeah,
didn't play any of the starters like for some of the
yeah,
games. So I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know that that really means anything at all.
Yeah, I think Mahomes and company are going to be good. I think there's going to be some big plays. I want to say the Chiefs win by more than three, and they
Yeah.
score a lot of points against. I think they'll score more points than they scored in the championship game against the Ravens. It was a 17-10 game. What's the over under on the Chiefs?
46 and a half.
46 and a half. That's high, but I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna Chiefs win and over. I'm that optimistic. I think uh I feel like you're gonna go the opposite for me, Dr. Scav.
Yeah, I think I mean, yes, I will end up being the opposite of you on our big board, which we'll be picking out later in the week prior to the games, but I think the over under number is going to be actually in my one of my picks for the week. So maybe we'll hold that off until just a few minutes when we get to that part
Okay. I
for our
like
picks anyway.
yeah, I think
Unless you want to roll right into that. Well,
yeah, we can roll into that. I like this. So my prediction, I think, is the Chiefs 31, the Ravens 17, which I believe would be over. So I think I like the Chiefs in not a blowout, but a comfortable win at home. I think they have learned their lesson from the Detroit game last year, and it'll be a little bit more like the game that they won the Super Bowl against the Texans. When they won that when they after they won their first Super Bowl, when they had beaten the Texans in that big comeback victory in the divisional round of the playoffs uh, back in 2020 or so. That was actually Clyde Edwards-Helaire's first game as a Chief. So I think the Chiefs will. I'll say the Chiefs pull it out. It's a home game for the Chiefs. They'll have Arrowhead on their side. I think they don't want to, and as long as they don't have again they don't have Kadarius Toney anymore to single-handedly give the game to the uh, the opposition, and also they won't have
on an opening day because that did happen just 1 year ago on the first game too, right? Against
yeah
Detroit. Wasn't that a turnover that led to a
yeah
score the other way?
pick
That
six yeah. And
yeah.
also they had Sky Moore as one of the top receivers as well, missing several catches as well to that game. So like they had a lot of they had receivers that were not very good. I think the Chiefs start catching those balls, or at least not giving the balls to the other team so
Yeah.
much. So I like the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm gonna say 31-17. So that gives them 48 total points. So that pushes it over. Um, but maybe that's a good segue into our NFL picks, the over under or the spread picks that we have for the rest of the league. It's opening week around the league. We have interesting games. We have a game on Thursday, the Chiefs Ravens. We have a game on Friday, which is going to be an interesting game as well. I think the Packers and the Eagles in I believe Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It's in Brazil somewhere. I think it's in Rio.
I think
Um,
so. I think that's right.
yeah. I believe wasn't there an issue about the wearing of green because that was some sort of criminal gang color, but now of course, the Eagles and the Packers are
In
both
Sao
wearing green.
Paulo.
What's in Sao Paulo? Okay.
Yeah. So are they worried then that there's going to be two
Oh
green
wait,
teams flying
I
by?
see. There's it's not a gang activity. The color green is associated with the rival team of
Oh,
Corinthians who plays in that stadium, and so maybe there's a ban on wearing green normally during that. I see. So it's maybe it'll be hooliganism that they have to worry about rather than uh,
uh,
that. So
well,
uh,
do you think it'll be a lot of locals will be the fan base for that game, or do you think it'll be a lot of Americans, uh,
traveling to
like
Brazil.
Eagles and Packers fans, traveling into to a warm weather city for maybe the first time?
I
to
would
watch a
guess
game.
I would guess it's a lot of each. Maybe 50-50.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting because like I think in the what were the Europe games like? In the Germany games, it seemed like there were a lot of American fans there, but there were also a lot of German. I don't see Brazil as being as big an NFL fan base as like Germany
Yeah.
or Britain. So I think in the European games, I think it was mostly European fans with some American fans making the trip. I would guess
Mhm. Well,
maybe
Germany is a little bit of an outside thing too, where it's, there are a lot of Americans stationed in Germany at
that's
the
true. Yeah.
military bases there that are,
Yeah.
part of the agreements that the U.S. has with Europe and Germany. So there are a lot of Americans in Germany at any given time. Chances are a lot of those, a great percentage of those are football fans too. So longing for American football in Europe.
Yes. So they're playing. Yeah, they're yeah. I don't know. They're playing.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true in Brazil though.
Yeah, the stadium's not huge though. It's only about 50,000 people.
Hmm.
Uh, in the it's a little less than 50,000 people. The uh, Neoquímica Neoquímica Arena, or the Arena Corinthians, but the Arena in Sao Paulo, seating capacity 47,252. So it's not the biggest. It's not Estadio Maracana in Rio, but it's in Sao Paulo. So it's a smaller venue. Although it seems like this uh, they added temporary seats for the World Cup in 2014. They made it up to about 65,000. So I'm not sure how big the stadium's capacity is going to be for the NFL, but I would say it should fill that. Yeah, it might be um, closer to 50,000, but yeah,
Ticket
I
prices are pretty pricey. They're it's as low as $269, Mike.
okay. So it seems like they've been sold then. If they're that
Yeah.
high.
So next week's, which would also be a home game for Philadelphia, but in Philadelphia against Atlanta, tickets are $172. So
Okay.
it's pricier than getting a ticket to an Eagles game in Philly.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, maybe
it
this.
must be at least somewhat interesting to the fans under there,
And
I
you'd think they
guess.
wouldn't have a game in the regular season there if they didn't believe that they could sell it out.
Sure. But who knows how long they've spent hyping this there too. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think they have to hype the games in Philly to sell tickets
No, but
in Philly to
this
Philly
this is a
fans.
game with two of the top. The Packers are maybe one of the most internationally recognized probably teams because they're historically, at least in the United States, they have one of the largest cross-country fan bases, and the Eagles have been one of the best teams in the last few years. So, yeah, I would say those are two of the more famous teams in the league, and two of the more successful teams as well. So, yeah, that's the Friday game, and then there's a whole slate of Sunday matchups, followed by Sunday night will be the Rams at the Lions, and then Monday night the Jets at the 49ers. So a lot of interesting games, but we didn't necessarily make the bets on the interesting games. We like to look at the edges wherever we can find them, and sometimes we make them on the not so interesting games. But do you want to talk about your first bet, Dr. Scaff?
Sure. Yeah. So on air for the last couple of years now, we've been making three picks that can be over unders or on the spread. Just so these would be our three, what we think are the most likely bets that we would make. We'll also be picking out all of the games, spread, money line, and over under on the big board. We'll talk about those as the season goes on. But for my first pick this week, uh, I have decided from last year that I don't know what's going on in week one. I usually I feel like I get more confident as the season goes on, knowing what team's going to do well against another team. Week one, I don't really know what's going on, so I'm going to be doing a different strategy this season, at least in the early weeks, in looking at games that have relatively high over under numbers, and then probably picking both of them, assuming that teams aren't going to be performing quite as well in week one as they will as the season progresses. So my first pick for my new strategy this season, uh, I'm going to go Houston at Indy under the 49.5 points. I think it's probably going to be a more defensive game. Houston has a good defense. Indy doesn't necessarily have a great offense yet. They're relying on a rookie quarterback who didn't finish 75% of the games he started last season. So I'm going to assume that's going to be a relatively low scoring game, and they will not get to the 49.5
Yeah, it's hard
points.
to. Yeah, that's a hard to predict game, I think, too, because you have two second-year quarterbacks. CJ Stroud had a great season last year, but you think, oh, he's gonna, the league's maybe gonna catch up to him somewhat. We don't really know a lot about Anthony Richardson, except that he was injured a lot, but he does have a lot of potential. So you think, oh, there could be a high scoring game, but Houston has a very solid defense. I think Indianapolis's defense isn't too bad either. So
Yeah.
maybe going under might be the play there. Um, that's one of the things you don't. Yeah, I don't. You don't really know the strength of each team yet, and you don't know uh, how strong the offense and defense are going to be relative to each other yet. So for week one is very unpredictable, and so yeah, I don't. You went all over unders. I went all spreads on mine just because I wasn't sure how well the offenses would do. But I think I saw a few games where I thought I think these teams are better than these other teams, so or at least not as bad as these other teams. They as Vegas might pick these other teams to be. So I went all spreads in my first pick.
And last year, like our three picks that we made each, we were really, really close, back and forth, I think, week to week. And I think you ended up ahead of me, I think, for last season. I think. I can't
Possibly.
remember. So
You
I
you
think
were way ahead on the
I think you
overall.
were above
Um,
500 even, I think,
yeah.
on our picks on this method. And so
Yeah, so
yeah, so
it was better for you, I think, to bet on every game because you ended up having an advantage. You didn't have much of a like you were as good at your three best as you were your other ones. I was much better at my best ones than I was at the other ones. So the ones I picked, I was tended to be better at, like, at least last year. We'll see what happens this year. I think I'm not sure there's any correlation between from year to year, uh, but we'll see. We'll find out the more
well,
we get.
we're about to find out, I guess, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
yeah?
Um,
Uh,
so my first game I picked I picked a road underdog um on the road. I think the AFC is a stronger conference than the NFC, but I also think that some of these AFC teams that are predicted to maybe be playoff teams are not as good maybe as people predict. And so I went. It seems like maybe I went with a bet that might be very popular because I think there's a lot of people that will bet on Dallas simply because they're Dallas Cowboys fans. But Dallas was actually a 2.5 point underdog at Cleveland. Cleveland, I think, has playoff aspirations, but I don't know how good Cleveland is. Nick Chubb is out for the foreseeable part of the season. Deshaun Watson hasn't been the quarterback that um, he is was expected to be.
for
The
that
best
price
quarterback,
point, especially.
yeah, the best quarterback last year in terms of stats was Joe Flacco, and he's not on the roster anymore. So, and they're playing Dallas, who's a very solid regular season team. They signed CeeDee Lamb to that big contract, so he's there. The running back situation maybe is not the greatest, but they have a lot of offensive weapons in Dallas. And Dak Prescott is I think a better quarterback right now than um, Deshaun Watson is. And I don't know if Cleveland, the first week of the season, I'm not sure if Cleveland it has the home field advantage that they might later in the season when it gets cold and windy and wet. Early September, the weather's going to be nice. And so it's not like, Dallas. So I like Dallas to keep it, at least keep it close, and I think possibly win outright against Cleveland on the road. Dallas plus 2.5. I'm not sure Cleveland makes the playoffs this year. I think Dallas definitely probably make the playoffs this year from the NFC. So I'm a little surprised that Dallas is not. If it's not like a pick 'em game. That's what I would kind of think of this game as being. But Cleveland is favored by 2.5. So
So that
I,
makes it an easy bet for what you were thinking then.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I know like in our season win total picks, I think we both had Cleveland as not living up to what the expectation was. So, I think part of it is because of games like this early on in the season, they have to, face tough Dallas team that make it fits with what we've been talking about. But now we have to find out if we know what we're talking about at all, I guess, right?
Yeah, I believe we each had Cleveland at 6-11 this year,
Yeah, that sounds right.
and we each had Dallas at 10-7. So um, this is one of the things we had been um,
We agreed on. We had
agreement
agreed
on.
on quite a few of the
Yeah.
game of the win totals. So I don't know if that's good or bad though. Like,
No, I don't know either, but I think Dallas has won 12 games each of the last 3 years, and I don't see them winning 12 this year, but I still see them as a playoff team in the NFC. So
yeah.
I like Dallas over Cleveland. I think Cleveland is it's hard I think predicting Cleveland to be solid year after year is maybe a fool's errand. Because I don't they're good every once they're good sometimes, but I don't think there's a reason why Kevin Stefanski has won 2 Coach of the Year awards. It's not because Cleveland is good every year. It's because Cleveland is good and then they drop off for a while and then they become good again surprisingly. And that's how you win Coach of the Year is when your team is not expected to be that great and they win more than they're
Mhm.
expected to. I think this is a year maybe where Cleveland drops off a bit. And they have a tough division that they're in, and I don't see them beating Dallas at home. But who knows? Maybe they'll blow out Dallas and be on their way to a 15-2 regular season and be a Super Bowl contender. Who knows? But I like Dallas 2.5 plus with the points over Cleveland.
And they were one of the few teams that kept four QBs on their roster too. Was that like maybe they were the only team?
They did for a while. I don't know
Or
what
did
they're.
they drop somebody?
They were trying to get rid of Jameis Winston and Tyler Huntley. And I'm not sure if they did that. Right now, they have 3 quarterbacks. DTR. They got rid of Tyler Huntley.
Okay.
He must be on the practice squad or has been just released outright. But they have 3 quarterbacks. They have Winston, DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson, and Watson on their 53.
They released Huntley on
I
the
think they were trying
29th.
to trade either Winston and or Huntley, but they didn't end up getting
Mm.
trade partners. But I
Yeah, so
found it interesting.
they ended up just releasing him, so they must not have found anybody for him.
Yeah,
Yeah. No takers, I guess.
yeah. How about your second bet, Dr. Scaff?
Um, Also going with another over under, as we sort of talked about already, between two defensive teams. Uh, I like, even though it's a relatively low over under at 42 and a half, Pittsburgh, Atlanta. So I'm not quite sure how either team is going to be scoring that many points in just in general. So, but even if one team does well, I think the other team probably won't. So, again, I don't know who's going to win the game, but I'm going to take the under 42 and a half Pittsburgh and Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think Pittsburgh's gonna have a solid defense. Atlanta with Kirk Cousins, I think will have a better offense than they did last year, but it still remains to be seen how good their offense is going to be. I think Pittsburgh's offense, it seems like is struggled. It really struggled in the preseason. Russell Wilson didn't play much in the preseason because of injury. He's the starter, so maybe they might not score a ton of points. Justin Fields might get in a series or two, and who knows what will happen then. Yeah, I could see that as a low
They
scoring.
didn't they play a lot of the preseason? Didn't that lot, even the third preseason game, didn't they split it in half and have each of them play half the game?
And neither
Or
played
like
very well. Yeah.
but they weren't good though. Yeah,
No.
that was the problem. I think they did play though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Wilson hadn't played much in the early preseason because he had been
Oh
injured, but I think he played in the last game.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's hard to say how good Atlanta is going to be. I think people think Atlanta is going to be a playoff team, but it remains to be seen. And Pittsburgh, I think, has a way of mucking things up and keeping uh, games low scoring. So I think that's a decent bet to go with the under there, even though it's in the dome in uh, in Atlanta, where Chick-fil-A has many of those concession stands, but is closed on Sundays during those Mercedes-Benz Stadium games, which is one of the odd. But did you see the? Have you heard about the concession prices though at Mercedes-Benz Stadium? How reasonable and cheap they are. It's like it's
But
by
because
far the
there's nothing to
cheapest.
open, is that what it is?
Well, it's by far the cheapest stadium to buy stuff at.
No.
Yeah, because um, I guess Arthur Blank, the Falcons owner, has really kept prices down. Um, it only costs like $2 for a hot dog,
Wow.
$3 for nachos. Um, beer is even cheap, fairly cheap there. Large domestic beer is 8.50. Um, sodas are like $3 to $4, things like that. So it's a slice of pizza is $3. Yeah, it's
Wow.
Mercedes-Benz Stadium is known for some of the cheapest concession stand food. He wanted to keep prices low. Arthur Blank did to accommodate fans. So that's one reason maybe to support the Atlanta Falcons in keeping their concession stand prices so
That's
low.
not how it is most. So
No, no, not even
that's good
close.
to hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes me want to go to a game in Atlanta
Yeah.
because
Bravo,
they're
Atlanta. That's great.
yeah, I think so too. I think they think, well, you can make up the high prices for volume because people are going to buy a lot more stuff if it's cheap. And if you make
Yeah.
if you make 50 cents on something rather than $5 on something, maybe you'll make up for it in volume or something like that. But um,
Yeah. But I thought, at Royals games that the concession prices are just so expensive. I don't know why people even know. Like you may as well just watch it on TV at home and not sweat in your seat and
yeah,
just watch it at home because like they're gouging you on the ticket price for a team that isn't very good in the last several years, and they're getting you again on the concessions where the food is garbage anyway. It's not even most of it isn't even good. So yeah, but they have a deal with a specific company who apparently really needs to make a lot of money, I guess. It seems like what it is. I don't
yeah,
like I don't like that. There are a lot of things the Royals do I don't care for. And that's one of them for sure.
yeah.
So bravo, Atlanta.
Go to Atlanta. Um, my second pick is also going to be a game in a domed stadium like Atlanta, but further north in Detroit. The Rams, with Matthew Stafford, former Detroit quarterback, are going to be playing their opening game in Detroit against Jared Goff, former Rams quarterback. Both of these teams made the playoffs last year. The the um, the Lions, I believe, beat the Rams in the playoffs last year in the divisional. I think it was the divisional game. Maybe it was the wild. No, he was the wild card. I think it was the divisional game. The Rams lost to uh, Detroit, but
I'll have
the
it here in a second. But
yeah, it was the Ram. Oh, it was the wild card game. The Rams lost by 1 point in the wild card game
yeah,
to
there's
Detroit. But I thought the Rams, again, they only lost by 1 point, and the Rams are Detroit's favored by 3.5 at home. I think the Rams are another potential playoff team this year. I think they have a chance to win outright against Detroit. I think also they can, these, 3.5 is a good number to bet against because you can get a field goal on the side of your team. So that hook, as they call it, is on the Rams side this game. And I think Detroit, this is the first year they've really been seen as like big favorites and like as favorites maybe to even advance all the way to the Super Bowl. They've paid all their players big salaries. I want to say Brown's made a bunch of money. Goff's got a big salary. Penny Sewell's got a big salary. All these guys are being paid. So maybe there's a little bit of satisfaction resting on their laurels Also, first game, you never know quite what's going to happen, but I think the Rams are going to be a solid team. They have a really good offense. If Stafford's healthy, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, all these guys are going to be healthy at the same time. Um, and so I like the Rams possibly even winning this outright, but I won't know. I don't know if I'm going to go that far at least. But I like the Rams with the points at 3.5 over Detroit. I think it might be a little bit like Detroit coming in last year to Kansas City, kind of stealing a victory when maybe it shouldn't have. Maybe that's
Yeah.
what the Rams can also do. So that's a lot of points, I think, at home uh, for Detroit over the Rams. So I like the Rams there.
And it's another one of those like sort of. I mean, there's more on the game than just the two teams playing each other. They did swap the quarterbacks, so each quarterback has a thing they want to prove against their old team. So there's you really don't know what's going to happen in those games, but it should be close, which plays into what your pick ends up
Yeah, I
being.
think it's a close game. So
Yeah. And
um,
the wildcard game was 24-23, so that's well within the 3.5 points.
yes.
So not seems like that seems like a safe pick too. Like I don't know how we no, there's nothing too crazy here at all. Like nobody's going way out on a limb so far.
Yeah, well, it seems like you can make a case for each side in most of these games.
Sure.
So it's because they don't make it easy for you in Vegas. They want there's a reason they want to make money is they want people on both sides and they want to make enough money that with the at least with the juice on one side or another they can make money either way. So
Yeah.
it's they're smart people running things down there.
We've seen some like reasons why those are so accurate too. In our last year or two, we've seen how many times the games come down like right up to the line
Yeah.
with great regularity. It doesn't seem it's not just occasionally. It's frequently very, very close to what the picks end
Yeah.
up being.
Even
So
those over under lines are sometimes just right on there. Like the Super Bowl line over under line, it was 47 and a half and it finished at 47. Um,
right.
that was because it was an overtime and it could have gone to 48 had it not been an overtime. The Chiefs scored a touchdown, so
Yeah.
there was no extra point kicked when the Chiefs winning play. So it was
Yeah.
very, very close. What do you think? What do you have? I believe maybe that sort of segues into your third pick. I believe you sort of teased this at the beginning of our football discussion. But what's your third and final pick of your of this week,
Week one.
week one?
Uh so I'm doing something I don't tend to do is make one of my picks on the Chiefs game. And I'm afraid to pick them to cover the spread since they are favored too. So and it's by that exact field goal, which I wouldn't want to bet. I don't think on that side. I was making a pick on that at least anyway. So I'm sticking with the over under and again sticking with the under side of things. 46.5. I'm assuming it's going to be a bit more of a defensive struggle than it has been in the last couple of years. We have seen some really high scoring games with Baltimore too, but the last couple seasons the Chiefs defense has progressed dramatically forward. So I'm hoping that we see a more of a defensive game and the Chiefs defense stepping up to figure out how to deal with Lamar Jackson. But maybe one team does do well and the other team doesn't do so well. I still think they could, you know, hold underneath that 46.5. So I'm gonna stick with the under on this one.
The
I know
under.
you had picked it as an over
I guess
just
I think
just
I'm gonna pick
recently
it
anyway,
over.
but
I don't know.
close.
I like since some of those regular season games there have been kind of fairly high scoring. So, but I can see it going either way. Honestly, I
Yeah.
don't. It's one of those
You,
things
you
where
had a I think you said what did you say it was 24 or 21, maybe
I
something
think
like that, 24 or
I think I
21.
was thinking it was going to be 31-17
Oh, there
Chiefs.
was 17, that's right. No,
That
you had a
was that
bigger
would be
spread
40.
too.
That would be 48.
Yeah.
I like the Chiefs to cover. I don't know. I'm just hoping the Chiefs come out strong. It's more wish fulfillment maybe than actually.
Yeah.
That's what it is with. when you're this is what I don't like betting on the Chiefs or with Chiefs games because I am a homer and I think the Chiefs are going to win each game, or at least I want them to win every game. So I have this kind of optimistic outcome for the Chiefs. So, but sometimes it turns out that way though. So it's hard to say when you should go with that gut and when you shouldn't. But so I'm staying away from that Chiefs game. I'm going with another underdog. So you went three unders as your bets. I'm actually going with three underdogs as my bets.
Nice.
Yeah. And so I'm going actually. So it's two road underdogs with Dallas and the Rams. But then I'm going to go actually a home underdog with the Giants at +1.5 over Minnesota. Minnesota, for some reason, is favored by 1.5 points against the Giants in New York. Minnesota is having quarterback issues because JJ McCarthy was injured. We have Sam Darnold starting. We have the Giants probably at the healthiest they'll be all season, and they have Daniel Jones starting there. I think neither of these teams are going to be very good. But if you have I think the idea is if you're an underdog at home, it's usually because the team on the road favorite is a good team. And I don't think the road favorite is a very good team. I don't think the Giants necessarily are either, but I think being at home is an advantage in the NFL. You never know what's going to happen, but I like, it's Sam Darnold coming back to MetLife Stadium. He was the former Jets quarterback, but um, I like I like the Giant. He didn't have very much success in New York, and so I don't know if he will this time either. I like the Giants though. They don't have they have a solid defense, I think. I don't think they have a great offense, but Minnesota, I'm not sure what they have either besides Justin Jefferson right now. So, you still have to get him the ball. So I'm gonna pick the Giants at +1.5 over Minnesota.
And anything can happen. So, but it still doesn't seem like a crazy bet. Like, and so none of these bets seem
No, thank you.
super risky anyway. So it's but it's also like anything can happen. So,
Anything can happen. Uh, we didn't any of the other games just catch your eye that you want to talk about? We mentioned briefly the Jets at the 49ers. Do you think the Jets have a shot against the 49ers, or is this another season where, does Aaron Rodgers even make it through the game against the 49ers? It's
yeah,
a getting
if
on
he
the
gets if he takes 5 snaps, is that considered a success for the year, or is it yeah, that's
Yeah,
it's one
you'd
of those
hope he
things.
makes it through the entire game, but the 49ers have a pretty ferocious pass rush. They are at home. They're favored by 3.5 over the Jets on Monday Night Football. It actually opened 49ers up by 5.5 points, so it's actually gone down towards Jets. So I guess there's a lot of Jets action. Um,
Yeah, so
so
do you think those are just New York City fans pushing the line that direction just by making bets that maybe they shouldn't, or is that
I don't know because I was thinking the Giants, you would think they'd be favorites if there was the New York action behind them. And I thought
yeah.
Dallas maybe would be better off too with the Dallas action behind it, but it doesn't seem that way. So I'm not sure what's going on here. I like, yeah, 3.5. I think I probably like San Francisco, but I don't know, 5.5. I might like New York, but 3.5. I think I like the 49ers. But I guess you have Ayuk back now. But the Trent Williams is still gone. So maybe that's a reason why the 49ers have dropped a little bit. I think Trent Williams is still holding out. So
Mm.
whether or not he'll be back by Monday night, who knows, it remains to be seen. So, um, but the 49ers, I think, are a proven solid to excellent team over the last several years. The Jets are really just relying on kind of potential, and I'm not sure if even Rodgers healthy is what he used to be. So, he is returning to the Bay Area. But he's been bad against the 49ers in at least when he was with Green Bay and in a lot of playoff games. The 49ers really had his number, so I'm not sure he's going to be much better with the Jets that game either. So that'd be an interesting game to watch on Monday night.
I know on this show we tend to talk a lot about, the interesting matchups that happen in the season and in any given week. But also, sometimes we like to talk about the other side of things too, though. Mike, is there any games that you see in this week's lineup that you say are for sure going to be stinkers? And like, why is this even being played, let alone
There
is anybody going to watch this?
are
Any of those games on the schedule for you?
there are actually a few of those games on the schedule. I think we have a couple of games involving NFC South opponents. So that Pittsburgh, I think the Pittsburgh Atlanta game that you're betting on is going to be kind of ugly. I
Yeah.
think the Panthers Saints game is going to be ugly. Washington Commanders Buccaneers probably also ugly with at
Probably
least you
not
have the
fun
young rookie
games. Yeah.
quarterback with Jaden Daniels, but
So there's some hope at least for
yeah,
Washington.
the
It's
Broncos,
still Baker Mayfield, right? In
yeah,
Tampa. So
yeah,
it was pretty
Broncos,
solid last year.
yeah,
So that's you
yeah.
know,
Broncos Seahawks. I also think looks like not a terribly attractive matchup.
well, especially because that was, a team that they, traded Russell Wilson to Denver, and then Denver's,
And now, yeah, and Drew
has
Lock
moved
is
on.
also no longer on the Seattle team, so it's
Yeah.
Bo Nix against Geno Smith, and I don't, I we on the Warrior Power we've talked about the Bo Nix starting scenario, and I think neither of us believe that Bo Nix should probably be the starter, and that he might be the worst draft pick of the in the first round that the quarterback could have picked. I think actually maybe picking Penix in the situation that he was picked in was maybe the worst pick for the Falcons. But I
But there's
don't.
still we still think there's probably more upside with Knicks than there is, or than with Penix than
I guess so.
with
Yeah, they're both on the
Knicks.
old side.
Yeah.
Penix has the PE in front of his name, which maybe adds a little bit to him. But Bo Nix has only five letters total in his name. I think his name is too short also to succeed in the NFL. At least for first and last name together. I think you need about, let's say, 10 letters to be really, really. Well, Tom Brady, what was he? He's 8 letters. You need at least three more letters.
But Tom's is a nickname though. It's
Yeah,
like
he's Thomas
Thomas.
Brady. Yeah, Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So that gets you up over 10.
I was
So
thinking Brett Favre. He's 10. Uh, John
yeah,
Elway. I guess John Elway was only 9 letters.
right. And it
Uh,
was a Joh and not a Jon.
yeah, Dan Marino. He was 9 letters too. So I think you need a few more letters there.
But then
Uh,
again, I'm sure it's Daniel Marino, which gets you over the 10, right?
yeah, John Elway though keeps you under. So
Yes, that one would be it.
He's Daniel. Oh, do you know Dan Marino's real name? He's Daniel Constantine Marino Jr.
Oh, and Constantine Jr. too.
Daniel Constantine Marino Jr.
That's
He was the oldest child of Daniel Constantine Marino Sr. and Veronica Kolchinsky Marino. He has two younger sisters, Cindy and Debbie Marino. Uh, the Chiefs famously passed up on Dan Marino in the 1984 NFL draft, but the Royals actually picked Dan Marino in the 1979 Major League Baseball draft. I think the Royals also picked John Elway in the baseball draft the 83. I guess the 80 was the 83 quarterback class, not 84. 83 quarterback class
yeah.
for but
So the Royals at one time did have a pretty good eye for
I believe
NFL
they still have
quarterbacks.
drafted more Hall of Fame quarterbacks than the Chiefs have. And the Chiefs, of course, didn't draft Len Dawson. They got him from the Steelers eventually. And so the Chiefs, I guess you can say probably safely the Chiefs have drafted one Hall of Fame quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. And I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Seems as though they have broken that streak. They did draft a quarterback in '83.
Todd Blackledge from Penn State. Yeah. Todd Blackledge is not a bad college football broadcaster, but he was not a very good NFL quarterback.
More than 10 letters in his name too. But
Yeah,
that
he did.
didn't work
Yes.
out, I guess.
Uh, I think you need at least, yeah, Jim Kelly, he was 9 as well, but you have James Kelly. So yeah, I think
And then
yeah,
he was right on 10 then. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Jim Kelly was only 8. Yeah, James Kelly is 10. I think you need at least 10 for full name. I guess John Elway's 9, so he's the exception to the rule. So maybe in Denver you don't need quite 10 letters to be a number one quarterback. But I don't think you don't want names that are necessarily too long either. But some teams have done pretty well on the long.
If only he spelled his name the Beau and then like
Nicks.
Knicks. Then he
Yeah,
gets 10. Then that gets him to 10.
he gets into 10.
Ah,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be the
Or
Knicks.
even Stevie in the Stevie Nicks way, Nicks would give him a 9 if he was Beau. And so that would
I
be
think you were trying to aim for 10 though. So that you need one
well,
more letter.
I was trying to think of John Elway in Buffalo. I mean, not Buffalo, in Denver, you only need 9
Yeah.
because of the altitude, maybe. But I think risking it on 5 letters, that's not enough. That's not enough letters for a real person's name. Even Brock Purdy is 10. Um, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you need Jared Goff. I think is on. He's
Ooh,
9.
it's only 9, yeah.
He's iffy. Yeah.
Borderline at best, Mike. That's where
Yeah.
we're going with.
So it seems like 9 is the cutoff because we have John Elway. Jared Goff has been a solid NFL quarterback. I don't know if we can think of. We'll have to think of some quarterbacks, and we'll think of if you think Tom Brady, but he's Thomas Brady and
Right.
James Kelly. Everybody's full name um, is at least 9 letters of all of the yeah
Yeah.
even Len Dawson, he was of course Leonard Dawson. So Len Dawson
Yes.
would only be 9 total, but he'd be Leonard Dawson. And trying to think of the shortest name Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, I just pulled up a list of the top quarterbacks in NFL history.
Well, Dan Fouts is pretty
Sid
is only 7, but he's Daniel Fouts.
Daniel, yeah. Bart Starr
Ooh,
is
but I
only
believe
9.
his name is Brian Bartlett Starr.
Oh,
So that wasn't even his first name. And also Bartlett is I believe 8 letters. So he so yeah.
Drew Brees would also be short for probably not, unless his first name actually is just Drew, not Andrew.
But he's at 9 though. If he's
Yes, but that puts him on the low end still.
yeah, he's at 9. Drew Brees is at 9. So it seems like 9 is the shortest.
Is Drew is his first is given
Drew
first name?
Drew Christopher Brees.
Yeah,
It almost sounds like Febreze at the end, Christopher Brees. But yeah, I think those really short names
yeah.
yeah. There hasn't been a solid quarterback with a name that short. Uh, uh, yeah, even with the short last name Warren Moon, his first name was long enough to
Yeah,
account for it. Yeah, Bart Starr. Yeah, the question might be why a Tittle was he went by his initials, but
yeah.
he was um, I'm sure I don't know what YA stood for. Uh, let's look it up. Yelverton Abraham
Alberton.
Kittle Jr. No wonder he went by YA. He was, yeah. You've looked at his Wikipedia page?
Yeah,
You see, he was only 33 years old in that picture.
yeah. He looks like he's about at least 50-ish, though, right?
He was prematurely bald, and people aged more quickly back then. They smoked a lot
Yeah,
of
must
cigarettes,
be.
and he,
Yeah.
he, yeah, it was a tough time for everyone. But you lived through the depression. I think maybe those face maskless helmets didn't do him any favors for much of the time. He looks a little like Al Bundy in his
A
uh
bit.
I think in his
Yeah.
pictures. But why
Yelverton.
Yelverton Abraham Tittle Jr. So
Like,
when
how far down the list, if you were guessing Y names, would it have taken you to get to Yelverton?
I never would have gotten to Yelverton. I would have been I didn't know that was a Y name. Yelverton.
Yeah.
Well, so in short, we believe Bo Nix is his name is not long enough to be a good quarterback, and if it is, it'll be a surprise to everyone, at least here at the One Trick Power Hour. Neither of us believe that Nix was the correct choice for the starter for the Denver Broncos, but apparently Sean Payton and the rest of the Broncos believe they're headed in the right direction with one Bo Nix Nix. So, do we have anything else to add? About, we've kind of talked about most of the matchups, at least that we find interesting this week. We'll wait until next week and to see how what the results are, and to see how everything turns out for the NFL season. Also, see what the Royals can maybe turn their ship around, get it right in time for the playoff race. And is there anything else we want to discuss or add? There's the U.S. Open, I guess, coming up. That might have ended by the time next week rolls around, but it's at least our non-favorite player Novak Djokovic has been eliminated from the U.S. Open. So
Yes, we can
we do
rest
root
easy with
against
that.
certain players here at the One Track Power Hour, as you probably noticed if you listen.
Players, teams, yeah, we have non-favorites that we also talk about.
But we change sometimes. We had Jordan Love as a non-favorite. Now he's regarded respectfully by at least by me anyway. I believe.
Yeah, I've never seen quite that kind of a shift with you and a team, so that's kind of impressive.
Yeah,
You're
I'm willing to admit
softening as you've
I'm willing
aged
to
to your
admit when
point.
I'm wrong. Uh, but yeah, I'm still down on Michael McCorkle, Mac Jones, and I'm still up on Bailey Zappi, who's now Kansas City Chief quarterback Bailey Zappi. So I think he's just as good as Mac Jones, who just didn't have the first round pedigree that Mac Jones did. So I think he's every bit as good. But we'll find out. I guess we probably won't. Hopefully, we won't find out how good um, Bailey Zappi is this year, because they would probably rely on injuries by both Patrick Mahomes and Carson Wentz. But I'd still say the Chiefs are in pretty good shape if they have that as their third quarterback this year. So I'm looking forward to the Chiefs season as you are, Dr. Scaff. Anything else to add before we sign off?
Oh no, I think that pretty well covers it. Yeah, we'll be talking more about our our full picks too. We'll be doing that all season, I think. So we'll be yeah, seeing how we do relative to the previous years. I think we've changed our strategies too with our betting and everything too. So I think I'm excited to see what how all this plays out. We did pretty well, I think, last year, so we'll see if we can improve on that too.
Yeah, I think we did okay on our weekly bets. Our three um, best bets are well, we had a name for them, I believe, last year. I can't remember what it was.
Oh yeah, well, I'll have to look that up before we get the final edit on this too. So yeah,
Our best, maybe our best bets are locks of the our locks of the
locks. That's what it was.
our
They
three
were our
locks of the week.
locks of the week.
Our three
Yes,
locks of the week. Yes.
that's it.
Um, those we were pretty good on those last year. I wasn't so good on the rest of the slate, but Dr. Scaff was very solid on the rest of the slate. So, uh, we'll see if that continues. This trend continues next year, and we'll just kind of take it from week to week and just see how things go. In the NFL season, it's an 18-week season, so there's a lot of action each and every week. And we hope to see you back here on the watching or listening to the One Trip Power Hour each and every week as well. So, as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like or subscribe to our podcast, which is available on many different podcast delivery services, or our YouTube channel, which is available on YouTube. Um, as suggested in the name YouTube channel. But if you're a longtime listener, of course, you know where to find us. And if you're a new listener, you've already found us. So we're really just spinning our wheels here, trying to tell you what to do. But we still do that anyway each and every week here as part of our sign off. But in closing, we wish you good luck on your bets this year. If you're making bets this year or this week, we hope your teams do well, and we hope you enjoy the winding down of the baseball season and the winding up of the football season. Uh, so until then, until next week, we will see you again. And until then, we wish you a good day.